Welcome to the tips for the 28th of September 2024. Just doing a quick look at how we did last weekend before we get into today's tips. Essentially, last Saturday we had a lot which was skipped. Didn't get much in there at all, with only $1.25 on $30 liability. And then on Sunday, we essentially had a few more, but only 59 cents if you were using the staying to the odds and sticking to a $30 liability, which is very low. Had we gone a lot further than that and looked at just taking everything, regardless of what the odds were, you would have made over the 2 days $4.08, so a little bit, just over 13% on a $30 liability for the weekend, which isn't too bad. Obviously, $30 is very low. You want to be doing a lot more than that. That does take our total tips up to 437 tips at all odds, with a profit of, let me go across and double check, $66.17. So we're covering two losses there. And we've had 238 which have fallen under the odds that I have put, and we've returned $33.17. So still only one loser out of 437 tips, which is not too bad for these lays, although we are laying pretty much generally 100 plus odds on most occasions. As you can see here, we had quite a few 1,000 odds tips last week. Obviously, you can try to get better on the exchange before BSP, but all of these are recorded at BSP prices, which is the Betfair starting price. So you can see most of them are, like, just looking at the bottom here, you've got pretty much nothing under $300. Occasionally we get some that are a little bit under 100, and very rarely we get some that are very low, like 38 there, which is fairly low, and 26 there. That's when we tend to make a little bit more. That's what we're trying to do, find where the odds are wrong for horses that can't win. So let's have a quick look at today's tips. I could not find anything at Kembla Grange, Belmont, or Toowoomba. There's a lot of wet tracks around today, and a lot of the long shots that were at odds and would normally not have much of a hope on good ground run okay on wet ground. So it's also hard to pick up the form when they've been running on good and then suddenly they're running on wet ground. So it just meant I had to be a bit tighter on the selections today. So there's only 13 or 15 selections around that, not too many at all. Let's have a look how many. 13 selections for the day, which is not much. So I'll knock out Kembla Grange, Belmont, and Toowoomba because we couldn't find any. And let's have a look at the 13 selections for today. So at Rosehill, race 2, I've got number 19 up to $600 in the odds. It's got a terrible barrier for this race. It is outclassed, and the form is one win from 22 starts, so not looking too good there. Then we jump over to Sandown, race 8, number 2. And as you know, I don't like to take the top 5 tab numbers very often unless there is something really bad about this horse. And for this horse, it is the wrong distance, and it's lost pretty much every time it's been first up. So you can kind of take this as a trainer taking a fitness run on this horse. It really wants to race 2,000 metres plus. So I'm willing to go up to $350 in the odds for that one. Then we got Morfettville, got a few here. So race 2, number 8, it's outclassed. It's got one placing from 26 starts. I'm willing to lay that at any odds. It will likely be up around the 600 plus odds range. Hopefully it will be a little bit less than the 1,000. And then we've got Morfettville Race 4, number 9. It's a big step up in class for this horse. It's only got one win from the 25 starts that it's had. Its previous runs are not quite there, so I'm willing to risk up to the $200 odds range. Then we jump to Morfettville Race 6, where I've got two horses, number 11 and number 12. Now, number 11, its only form is on wet tracks, and this track is actually rated as good, so I'm willing to go up to 150. And number 12's last win was in 2022. It's not running well, hasn't run well since then, so I'm also willing to risk this up to $150. Then we jump over to Mackay, where it had some interesting races. Race 1, number 8. It's got an apprentice jockey on it. The horse doesn't have any form. I can't see the jockey getting much out of the horse to get it to lift. It hasn't won since 2021, so I'm willing to risk that one up to $600. Now, you might ask why that one's not a $1,000 lay. I just couldn't find other horses that I was confident in would win. Then we have Mackay Race 3, where I've got numbers 4 and 6. Now, number 4 has lost by between 10 and 20 lengths, so I'm willing to risk that up to $1,000. And number 6, it's had 57 starts for 0 wins. I think it had a few placings, but it's obviously a horse that doesn't want to get to the front at any stage and win, so I'm willing to risk that up to 150. Then Mackay Race 5, number 10. It's been really poor since it returned from a spell. Its overall lifetime form is 20 starts for 0 wins, and I'm willing to go up to $1,000 on that. There were some good horses in that race that should take it out. Then we've got Eagle Farm Race 3. Two horses in that race, number 3 and number 16. Number 3 is a first starter, but the trial form is not looking very good. Given it's just trial form, I'm only risking up to the $120 in the odds. And number 16, it's up in class. It had a terrible race, the first race, but you can sometimes forgive that. But in this case, it's also got very poor trial form around that. So I don't really see it doing anything. This is one of those areas where you can get on a horse early in its lifetime and pretty much lay it throughout all of its runs. So I'm willing to risk that one up to $1,000 in the odds. And then finally, Canberra Race 4, number 12. It's not running well enough. It's had 6 runs for 0 placings or wins. Canberra, just interesting track. There wasn't much else in the race, so I'm only willing to risk this one up to $80. I think it's in the odds range of about $31 fixed price, so hopefully we can get that under $80, and that will be the only one that really adds any kind of substantial win or profit if it sticks to those odds. But that's it. So the only other thing on today's AFL, the grand final is on, obviously. There's some very easy lays in the medal market, like you can lay the emergencies, which is pretty much free money. The other thing to look at is Sydney and Brisbane played once this year. Brisbane did win that by 2 points. It was in a period where Sydney lost 3 games in a row. The other 2 games they lost significantly by large margins. So obviously it was a period when Sydney was out of form. Brisbane had to win some pretty hard games. They weren't in the top 4, so they had to pretty much, if you look at their last 2 games to get to the grand final, they had to come from behind to beat GWS, and then they had to come from behind to beat Geelong. Now, they looked fairly good against Geelong. That's probably kept their odds a lot lower than what they should be. And I think Sydney's odds out at the $1.85 is really good value. I think Sydney really should be around the $1.65 to $1.70 kind of range. So if you are looking to put a bet on the AFL, I would be tipping Sydney. I don't see Brisbane coming from behind another game. both teams will be up for it, but I just think Sydney likely has the better form going into this game. Yes, Sydney did come from behind to beat GWS as well, but their last game to get into the grand final, they won quite convincingly. So I think Sydney can get to the lead and pretty much hold it. So we'll see what happens, and hopefully it's a Sydney win. I've got some money on Sydney to win it, and yeah, we'll see how that goes. The other game in the NRL tonight, you've got Penrith versus Cronulla. I don't really see Cronulla beating Penrith. Not with the way Nico Hines is playing in big games, but we'll have to see how things go this week. I think Penrith is just going to be too good for Cronulla, and it'll be a grand final between Melbourne and Penrith, who have been the best two teams this year as well. Okay, I'll leave it there. Hopefully, if you follow these, you can get at least a small win today. It doesn't look like we're going to get much, but I'll put in some selections again tomorrow. Thanks for watching, and good luck if you're having a bet.